Welcome to Weird Web Radio, an explorer's guide to hidden worlds of the paranormal and occult, reality-expanding experiences, and the downright weird and bizarre. With your host, Lonnie Scott.
Hey gang, welcome to another episode of Weird Web Radio. I'm super happy to have you here. And this episode is going to be a little bit different from everything we've done before, because you're going to have just me. There is no guest on this show. I've been getting so many questions from people all over the country and even internationally from people who are fans of the Hellier Series. And they want to know more about the experience and experiments that I've done with hypnosis and why we came up with those sort of experiments that were conducted and so on in season 2 of Hellier. If you have not seen Hellier, you can go watch it now on Amazon Prime and YouTube for any nation out there. You can get internet access, I'm pretty sure. So, without further ado, if you're thinking about experiencing hypnosis yourself or looking for help with hypnosis, you can find me for private sessions available over Skype, anywhere that you have an internet connection. And of course, you can enjoy that from the comfort of your own home. And you can go to my website for that at althypnosis.com. That's A-L-T hypnosis.com. If you're interested in learning hypnosis, please contact me through the contact information on that website. I'm also a certified hypnosis instructor. And other than that, in this episode, I've decided to bring together a lot of the questions that I've been getting, some of which overlap quite a bit, and create a coherent kind of timeline of events and the reasons behind why I chose to do what I was doing and why I chose to work with the people I worked with, what sort of experiences that I think were generated, and so on. So, this story begins way back in, I think it was 2012, maybe 2011 at the very earliest, when Greg was putting together a project called Planet Weird. And he and Dana and Jason Gowan, Nick Faust, were all hitting the road with some camera equipment and a mission to just engage the world of strange and really cool things that are happening out there, paranormal occurrences, and trying to investigate things in ways that maybe they haven't really been investigated before, or at least tackle the issues that are often found without taking the more traditional approach, I guess. We were discussing things over email and come up with this idea of alien abductions, and one thing that is common in alien abduction lore is, hypnosis to regression, to figure out what actually happened to abductees. So if they're experiencing repressed memories, that maybe they can get those sort of memories shaken loose, as it were. And I have a lot of opinions about what happens in those. In fact, when it comes to hypnotic regression, I'm not an advocate of it in many of the ways that you see it. Memory, as we often access it, is not the perfect recording that we usually think that it is. There's a lot of research out there to prove that is in fact true. So I've long maintained that you can show me the video or give me the transcripts of a hypnotist leading someone through an alien abduction scenario to try to figure out what happened to them. And I will show you in that transcript or on that video the moments where the hypnotist was actually suggesting the memories and planting them falsely in the mind of the client. So part of the purpose of going ahead with this project and working with Greg and Dana to create that alien abduction scenario was to prove how easily it is to plant false memories in someone's head. And quite frankly, folks, you don't need hypnosis to get false memories planted in your head. Suggestion has a very powerful effect on all of us, and often in ways that we're not aware of. When I got to the room where we were conducting the experiments, I began doing something that we call priming. And I'm just trying to develop and explore a conversation that really digs into what everyone thinks about alien abduction, their thoughts on hypnosis in general, doing in the hypnosis industry what we call a pre-talk, preparing them for what's really going to happen, what to expect hypnosis to sort of feel like, what you're going to experience while you're going through this process. And different conversations had come up, and I know one thing we talked a lot about was the satanic panic, and I know I misquoted, who were experts and such going on, leading the research into the satanic panic years, and how people were actually put in prison for some of the things that were done through nothing more than the power of suggestion, planting false memories in people's minds. And at some point, Jason and I started talking about his experiments with lucid dreaming. And he seemed more curious about the mind and the powers of the mind, at least openly in conversation with me, than others did in the room. So early on in the conversation, I sort of had Jason tagged as my likely subject for the experiment. And even through that process, I still ran suggestibility exercises that are developed as for hypnotists to sort of determine the best way that we can work with people. It's often used to show that you are in fact experiencing something, some sort of phenomena that you can see with your own eyes that says, wow, hypnosis is real. And everybody did fine and did great. But there was something about Jason and the way he wanted to talk about lucid dreaming that really made me want to work with him. Now, what you see on camera is called a handshake induction. The handshake induction is a pattern interrupt. It's supposed to insert this blank moment, as it were, open for powerful suggestion. If you suddenly interrupt an automatic process that you do without even really thinking about what you're doing. So as he reaches out his hands to shake, I grab it, stick it in his face, tell him look at his hand, etc. And that's a classic use of a handshake induction and interrupting those automatic patterns. The reason it works so well with him is because of all the pre-talk and the priming of the room and the conversations we were having that was already generating these big mental images of what could be possible and what they've experienced and the thoughts that they have on this exact kind of scenario. Now, in Hellier, you don't see the entire session of anything that I've done with the experiments. But particularly with Jason, for the alien abduction, I created what I just generally refer to as a safe place. A place where Jason could retreat to on a trigger word immediately with the speed of thought. If I thought for any moment that his mind had truly gone too far, that if I thought he was truly in some sort of danger of feeling overwhelmed with anxiety or fear. Now, museum members for the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult, you can go to paramuseum.com to find out more about that. We're given access to the full raw footage of this session. So, folks, that's worth the price of admission alone. You can see that he's visibly under a lot of duress at one point. And I felt like the experiment had gone plenty far enough. There was no reason to see what more his mind wanted to torture him with from his subconscious fears. So I triggered his safe word, which for him was grandpa. And it took him immediately to this still, calm place that he felt completely safe, where he could just be himself, feel loved and protected. When you see the raw footage, you can see how quickly he takes on that change. And that was something that I really wanted to showcase as a powerful part of suggestion and hypnosis as well. Now, I'm skipping through here a little bit. I feel like I'm getting a little bit all over the board, trying to keep this as coherent as possible for you. Now, people have been asking, and it's even been suggested, did Jason have a real alien abduction experience that I uncovered somehow? I say no. It's very unlikely that he had an experience that I uncovered. There were elements in his storyline that I seeded in prior suggestion and conversation, so I wasn't totally surprised by some of the things that came out of his mouth. Others have suggested that perhaps he had a real sort of alien experience in imagination, in the imaginal, as it were. I'll say he absolutely did. What happens in our imagination is far too often overlooked in today's society. The imagination is very powerful. In fact, while you're sitting there right now listening to this, I want you to imagine for a moment that I've given you a slice of a lemon. A big, fresh, juicy slice of lemon. And you feel it in your hands. And you reach up and you put that lemon slice in your mouth. Take a bite. Feel the lemon juices as they all sour, as they move across your tongue and down your throat. And as you feel that sourness building, you should sense your cheeks kind of tightening, saliva beginning to build in your mouth. There's no reason for you to have that experience if imagination doesn't have a profound and real effect somewhere and somehow. So, Jason goes into a trance state. He's led and guided there by me. And as I said, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. You can see it on his face. He's got tears. He's got heightened anxiety. You can tell he's experiencing a profound and deep fear. And all of it is quite understandable because he's gone to a place where he's out of control. He's been abducted by creatures and beings that he doesn't understand. I also happen to believe that trance can be used to access experiences that connect us to the field. The field is a concept that's been brought forward by Aidan Wachter in 6 ways that encompasses a lot of what different traditions and religions around the world throughout time have referred to as this wide net or web that connects and holds everything that ever is or was and ever shall be in all of reality, seen and unseen alike, right? And the field is a nice way to encompass that. Trance is a way to connect to those deeper sections of the field, to bring in those different connections. I might lead a smoking client to a point where they're looking at a reflection of themselves, only this version of themselves is older, maybe 5 years, having been a non-smoker for all that time. And to really experience that and to feel the gratitude and the love that you would have for yourself, for the decision that you made on that very day to quit smoking finally and for good. And you see that version of yourself, that older, wiser, healthier version of you staring right back at you with all of that love and compassion that you would genuinely hold for having all of that freedom, right? And all you're doing is imagining that. And whether you can see that in your mind or feel it as some sort of embodied truth, whatever the experience is as it rises up in you, you get all of that proper feeling that you should have by simply imagining it with purpose and intent and direction. And, there's more to that process that comes after that. But simply deciding to see something or experience something can help make it as real as it needs to be, just like we did with the lemon earlier. So in trance, you access the field and you get back to that deeper level. Jason goes into trance. False memories are planted. They're accepted. Is he accessing something in the field that's a deeper manner for a more profound sort of real experience? I think the answer to that is yes and no. Can energies be swirling around him that sort of enhance the projection he's getting from his own subconscious mind for this experience of alien abduction? Absolutely. I think his intense focus and trance can open him up to more of those deeper experiences. Now, did I realize that he was going to access some of those deeper areas of the field, perhaps, back in 2012? Not exactly. I've studied, I've experimented, and I've learned a lot over my years as a hypnotist. I've worked with well over 1,000 people in the last decade. I'm much more skilled and practiced in sorcery and witchcraft and various methods of the occult. I can recognize more of what was happening with him in that place and in that time now that I have acquired much more knowledge over the years, and everything I learn gets added to that skill set. So, did aliens come visit Jason? No, I definitely don't think that happened. With as much certainty as anyone could possibly have, investigating what happens in the confines of someone else's mind. Did spirits take on the form of aliens to try to make that experience more real? Again, I don't think that's necessarily what happened. I think he was focused in on a very harrowing experience, and of all the vast connections that come through us in the field, he plugged into the right ones to bring certain energies into his mind that help not only make that experience real, but very profoundly real for him. And that's really all of the questions I had concerning his experience. Now, a funny story about this experiment, though. When I was taking my class to become a certified hypnotist or a certified hypnosis instructor for the International Certification Board of Clinical Hypnotherapy, the instructor asks for everyone in the room to share a unique experience they've had with hypnosis, something that makes every one of us a little different from everyone else in the room, perhaps. I raised my hand and I told him in the class about the experience with Jason and everything for Planet Weird. Everybody listens and they're quiet and they pay attention to the story I shared with them. And as soon as I finished, Richard, who's teaching the class, looks at everyone and says, "Next, we're going to talk about ethics." And I thought that was pretty funny. It's still one of my favorite memories. Now, Hellier, Season 2. Idea time. Can someone enter a trance and return with real information that will help with the case that they're investigating? Greg contacts me about this. We formulate a plan. Nothing about Hellier 2 was shared with me while we developed all of this. So I So I put together the plan. I drove down to Kentucky to join them in a home that was surrounded by beautiful forest and hills, big, beautiful river behind it. I To say I was enchanted with that area of Kentucky would be an understatement. I thought it was beautiful. Up and down that area of the state, absolutely stunning natural environment. Highly recommend anyone go pay a visit to that area. Just don't be an asshole and start investigating all the Hellier things and bothering the citizens, okay? For this, why did I decide to help with season 2? Greg and Dana have been very good to me over the years. I've worked with them in different ways since 2010. And, I've come to think of them like family. If you go all the way back to even when the traveling museum started, there was a time when they were coming through the area and they met up here with me in Mattoon, and we went to the local Monocle's Pizza. My family was with me, and my fiance's mom happened to be visiting us from Florida at the time. And they've got a couple items in the trunk. I remember they had a piece of the Amityville house. I think they had the sword at that time. There were various items. This was before they found Billy and some of the more well-known pieces of the museum. What they had was plenty enough to scare the shit right out of my mother-in-law to be. She could not have been any more terrified of that stuff. She didn't want anything to do with it. So anyway, Greg and Dana and I we've known each other for a while now. And I just think they're good people. I'm fully supportive of their mission in the world. I'm always happy to help with anything they've got going on. Another thing, I had met Karl and Connor at a paranormal museum members only event at Ashmore Estates. Love the way they carried themselves, the energy they bring to a room. They're very calming, and they have this real good way of investigating that even brought a room full of people down to a level that allowed them to have whatever experience they needed to have. And you could just tell that they're good people. They've got great experience and they know what they're doing. I thought it would be pretty cool to have a chance to get to know them a little better in a much more intimate environment while we're all working together on this project. Connor had been a guest on this show previously, so I got to know him a little bit better, and they're just really two good guys, and I thought, why not go help them further this Hellier case and make it much more exciting with some hypnosis experiments? Why not? What can we figure out sending somebody new into this trance state? And magic, sorcery, trance, all the ways that these blend together and get used. I wanted to personally see if I could guide someone in that group to a place that not only connects them deeper to the field, but a place where they can access real, genuine, verifiable information that would help them on the case. Beyond that, I had a plan to whoever I worked with, I wanted to teach them how to access that place in their mind and in the field all on their own so they can practice it and get better. I tell my hypnosis clients, it's like doing push-ups. The more you do them, the better you get at them, right? Hypnosis and trance is the same way. So, going back to the kind of questions I had concerning Hellier 2, the case. Like I said, I didn't know anything about the case. I didn't know what direction they were going to investigate with season 2. They didn't let me in on any of the details. I thought that was probably pretty important because as badly as I wanted to know what was coming up, they could have spoiled the shit out of that series. I'd still watch it 10, 12 times and more. I didn't want to seed the experiment with suggestions as I'm working with, my subjects, with preconceived ideas of where I think it should go or what they've been working on, and maybe push more into their heads, right? So this way, maybe if we land on something, it has more sense of being genuine, I think, to viewers and everyone who was part of the experiment. So, why Karl? People want to know, how did Karl get chosen? Karl was already kind of chosen. When I got there, of course, we had a fantastic discussion. You get to be part of a small group of great minds like that. You're going to find yourself immersed in fantastic discussions. And I think, based on some of the questions that were coming my way and the answers I was giving, and then different things we were talking about, and now having seen Hellier Season 2 several times, I realized how close I was coming a few times with some of the things I was bringing up as a subject. But anyway, why Karl? Karl has this unique perspective of the entire Hellier project. He's not on the camera very much as an experimenter or a researcher or any of those things that you see so much. He's the guy with this really cool harness that he's created so he can carry the camera and film everything. And then he goes back and edits all of the video and puts it together in this beautiful package that we all get as the series. But that means he's spending countless hours watching video and listening to the audio and seeing little things that everyone else is missing, because he's got to pay so much close attention to it all. So in effect, he's what I like to think of as the witness, right? He's the one who has seen it all, witnessed it all, reviewed it all, again and again and again. So maybe, just maybe, if we can get him into the right trance state, that right mind space, he'll be able to connect those dots in a better way. Perhaps in a way that it never occurred to him while struggling with it consciously. So it's Karl. We work with Karl and guide Karl into this hypnosis experience. He goes to a really cool kind of place that he described as sort of a library where he could go access these books as he's getting questions from me, and Greg's whispering things in my ear that he wants me to pick at. And Karl keeps going and accessing these books and finding these connections. And I sincerely hope that he's continued to develop that, because I thought it was a really cool concept. So, he's doing that. He's accessing this memories and experiences through that visual sort of aid. And something I decided to guide him deeper, where he could go towards that wider field, those deeper experiences, was, opening up a new doorway in that place where he could access those unknown territories, go further out into those connections with the field. And when he goes out there, I asked him to call on an ally, somebody to come forward with helpful information. And that's when we start to get into much more interesting things. There's plenty that you did not see on the series. How relevant it is, I'm not entirely certain, as they've gone on and they're still working on things. I don't know if it's uncovered more as they've gone along, but it was still wonderful to work with Karl anyway. He was very receptive, and he was pretty good at following along, considering he had a room full of friends pointing cameras and phones at him, and a lot of motion going around. and had cameras strapped to himself as we were going through doing that experiment. So it's not exactly the most comfortable and private experience, especially for your first hypnotic journey. But he did great. He did a fantastic job. What many of you may not know is that we also took Connor on a little hypnotic journey on that evening as well. And for that one, we sent everyone out of the room we were working in, and just Karl strapped with the camera, of course, and then Connor and I with microphones. And Connor had a really interesting experience as well. That one that I think is relevant for sure concerning fairy lore. To get a really cool insight into possibilities of what's going on with Hellier, I would like to recommend everyone to see the collective work of Morgan Daimler. Morgan has been on this show as a guest, and they are an incredible expert on all things fairy. And also SEO Helrune is SEO Helrune, SEO Helrune. Please go find her blog as well. And her book, Essays from the Crossroads, is fantastic. And read their stuff concerning fairies and the other. And on Helrune's page, she's even started digging into her thoughts on Hellier specifically. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track here. I think the experience that Connor had during our hypnosis experiment, some of that lines up more of that fairy lore for me than others may be aware of. If Greg and Dana are ever going to share the footage of working with Connor, I have no idea. I won't reveal too many of the details to respect the privacy. There could have been a reason why they didn't release that. I wouldn't have even told you if Connor hadn't brought it up himself on an interview on another show somewhere. So there's that. And I do know one thing, working with Connor, he was in a fantastic deep state. And when I would ask him a question, he would answer so quietly. It was really hard for me to hear him sometimes. I would repeat the question or ask him to say it again. And after we were done filming, Karl says, I could hear you guys perfectly fine. We're all, we've got microphones on. So yeah, I'm sure the playback on that is somewhat entertaining. It takes some editing wizardry to make me look a little smarter, I guess. And we know Karl's perfectly capable of that. This experiment also comes back to the field again. When I'm guiding them out to get those deeper connections, and I'm having them call out for an ally to bring real, verifiable information for the case that can help them, that can be led to down the road, that they'll see clear signs and symbols and things that will say, this is exactly what I needed. That call out into the field, as far as I'm concerned, is making a call out for someone in spirit of some sort to come help them. And the spirit can be human or otherwise. And this gets into my idea of animism, the oldest concept in mankind. We are a spirit in a wide ecology of spirits of all types, not better or worse than any of them. We're surrounded by this vast multitude of the spirit world at all times in animism. So to make a call out to anything, it could be someone close. You could be tuned in to the right connections through the way you're thinking to make the call go out vast distances to call to you something that is more relevant to what you're seeking. Paranormal investigators out there, if you really, you go to these truly known haunted locations, and that's great. I like them too. I think there's reasons for those places to be much more active. Get your recorders and things out right there in the middle of your living room, or in the middle of the park, or somewhere where you normally wouldn't think to do it, and see what happens, see what comes up. Because I'm telling you that we are in a vast ecology of spirit in a multitude of ways, that very little of which is human. So there's really great stuff out there on animism. You could see John Beckett has written a lot about it. Gordon White talks about it quite a bit on Rune Soup. I've dug into it with several of the guests on this show. So just consider that as a new way of interacting and experiencing the world around you in spirit as well. So they call in the spirits to come give them information, and I'm personally curious how relevant it's even become as time has passed. So here's to hoping that Karl and Connor are utilizing these techniques even more in their investigations. That covers most of the questions that I had concerning the Hellier experiments with hypnosis. If you have any other questions or anything, you can obviously send them to weirdwebradio@gmail.com, or contact me on social media, my personal pages on Facebook and whatnot. Many of you have hunted me down and become friends on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram at weirdwebradio and Twitter at weirdwebradio. As a final thought, I don't often get to plug in to the kind of fellowship and love and connection that you find between Greg, Dana, Karl, Connor, and Tyler. To be welcomed into that and invited into that was an incredible honor, and time spent with people that you resonate in such deep, meaningful ways is just simply good for your soul. I hope you can forgive the sort of rambling that I've done here. It's been a day of not enough coffee, and I'm currently trying to fix that. So go out and watch Hellier Season 1, Season 2. Share it with your friends, your family, and like I like to say in the bonus episodes, even with your familiars. For the bonus audio, I'll go ahead and I'll take that morbid curiosity challenge that I often like to present to my guests, and I might even give you a little surprise. I guess you're just going to have to go to weirdwebradio.com, click join the membership, or patreon.com/weirdwebradio to find out. Thanks for tuning in again, guys. This has been a lot of fun, trying to put my thoughts in order, and I thought, why not just go ahead and do the thing and share it with the world? Stay weird out there, my friends.
Do you want to hear how they just answered that question? What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit? That and many others, including what they think about the afterlife, what they may or may not do in cemeteries, what are their traditions, magical practices that have to do with the dead, folklore that surrounds their homes, and so much more, available for only $5. $5 a month. Even if I make more than one episode in a month, it's still just $5 a month at patreon.com/weirdwebradio, or go to weirdwebradio.com and click join the membership. You can find me on Instagram at weirdwebradio. You can find me on Facebook as Weird Web Radio, or come join the new, fun, and exciting Weird Web Radio Facebook group. Thank you again for being here. Stay weird out there, my friends.